We're all imperfect, and on this podcast, I'll be chatting with a variety of interesting people who are willing to make themselves vulnerable by sharing their own struggles and imperfections.
The worst possible thing that happened. Me overdosing, landing in hospital, them holding the phone out to me and saying, it's your parents, you've got to tell them everything. And that was just like, fucked. That was just so hard.
I'm Hugh Van Keilenberg from the Resilience Project.
And I'm Ryan Shelton from my mum.
And I'm Josh from Hugh's mum.
And this is The Imperfects.
We are joined by our first ever rapper. As in, not the country's first ever rapper, the podcast first. Arguably the best rapper in the country, but our first ever rapper. Matt Cole, who is also known as 360, although I have heard a wonderful story that Luke Darcy once introduced you I don't know where you were playing, but Luke Darcy, the football commentator, his job was to introduce you, and he said, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome 360.
Yeah. That's great. Hey, it's not his fault. Like, it's an honest mistake.
It's an honest mistake. Yeah.
Not knowing who you are though would surprise me, but it's a real thrill. I absolutely loved meeting you yesterday, and I just walked away from that. I just felt so energized by our conversation.
Same.
And I just thought I can't wait to share this beautiful person with our listeners. So, welcome to the podcast, Matt.
Thank you.
Do people like? This is what I was going to ask you yesterday, but I forgot. Do I call you 360 to your face, or do I call you Matt?
Everyone calls me 6 or 60. So all my mates just call me that, or any number, really.
Would 3 be offensive?
Three's fine.
3's good.
Yeah, 3's good. I like 3. It's a rare one, but 6 or 60 usually, but I like 3 too.
6.
Yeah. But or Matt. You can just run with the name if you want. The actual name.
I do like 60 a lot, but I feel
60's great.
I don't know.
I never introduce myself as that though. Like, I feel like a bit of a wanker if I come in like, g'day, I'm 360. It doesn't feel right.
Especially with that tone and the handshake.
That big grin.
Yeah, it's like all of a sudden you're a real estate agent. G'day, I'm 360. I'd love to show you around this home.
There's just so much to your story. There's so much I want to cover today. In fact, I walked away from our coffee yesterday thinking this could be a 7-part series. I don't know how we're going to do this in one, but so much to touch on today. Your career, your wisdom, the things you've picked up along the way from such a challenging journey, but also such an incredibly successful journey. But yeah, mate, I don't know if we start from when you started rapping. I mean, it's not something that a lot of Australian kids decide to do. I don't think that's what you were looking at doing when you were a kid, and then you obviously changed direction.
Yeah, I was always into basketball, even when I started rapping. Like, that was the main thing,
right?
But I started rapping at about 14, and just really, really terrible. For ages it was really bad. I was rapping in an American accent. Rapping about robbing people with guns and shit.
Wow.
Relatable.
Yeah. When
Hang on. Rapping about robbing people with guns and shit?
Pretty much.
Wow. I mean, it's a pretty threatening weapon. So I can
Which
see.
one is it?
Yeah.
Which one do you want?
I say that. I say and shit a
Yeah,
lot,
I know,
so you'll be able to add that.
I won't pick up every time. I promise. The joke will get old.
And who were you listening to? Like, who was your influence then?
So it was like, at the very start, it was a lot of underground hip hop, and a lot of golden era stuff like Wu-Tang, Big L. Eminem was just a huge influence back then.
Yeah.
He was my first concert that I ever went to when I was on my 14th birthday.
Really?
Yeah. That was
amazing.
Just amazing.
Well, what did you, because you just started rapping and then you see Eminem, how does that, like, what influence, like, what impact does that have on you?
Oh, it just made me like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
Whatever that is, I want to do it.
Really?
Yeah.
But, I was in a big bandana that he was selling, and like in the crowd rocking out thinking I was a gangster, and that was very cute.
Yeah.
Very adorable for a while.
Yeah. Would that have been just trying to place the era? Is that like FUBU? Would that have been like FUBU era?
Yeah. FUBU.
Yeah.
I had like a full denim, like you know them shiny jeans they used to make?
Yes.
Can you remember them?
Yeah.
It was called Rockaware, the brand, and I
Yes.
had a full denim suit, like this huge shiny jacket, and it was just massive. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I was rapping like that for a while, and then I don't know what, I can't really remember what made me shift from doing the kind of American gangster stuff to then I shifted to making way more Aussie kind of stuff. Like I think I started listening to Aussie hip hop, and then I got super influenced by them and went down a more, I wasn't being myself again in what I was doing. I was trying to be really hard. When I was just like, I come from middle class family, went to a private school at my first high school. So I was a very, very sheltered individual when it comes to shit like that. So it was just not being myself. But because I had been very, very obsessed with rap and the art of rap, I had developed skills quite early. So when I was 16, I was doing a lot of things that people that had been doing rap for a while still weren't grasping the technicalities of it. And I ended up getting signed with quite a big label back then, and dudes who I absolutely idolized at the time. And then they helped me out a fair bit. And then fast forward about 5 years later, when me and Pez started working together, we met playing basketball, and he was the one that was like, dude, you're not being yourself in your music.
Wow.
Like, this is not you. You're a nice guy. You know, you're not a hard person. I don't know why you're trying to project that image. And I think it was just a young thing I'd always wanted to do, is try and project myself as this tough cunt kind of thing.
And do you think that's because of the music you're listening to?
I think so. Yeah. I've kind of looked up to a lot of people in my area that were like that at the time. So I was always just trying to be cool and fit in.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty common though.
Yeah.
Like especially to emulate your heroes as an artist when you're young. I think that's pretty common. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, as a 42-year-old man, like I might listen to Wu-Tang Clan and go, that's cool what they're saying. I'm like, hang on a minute.
Yeah.
Doesn't reflect me at all.
Yeah, that is the opposite of me. Like that is so I can completely understand how like a teenage boy goes, yeah, okay, I can do that.
But it was good. Once it was great to have someone like Pez. He had a lot of foresight very young, especially now that I look back, I realise like.
So yeah, and Pez obviously is a very successful Australian rapper as well.
Yeah. And then he was just like, you got to just embrace yourself and just be you and shit. So I started.
No, I promise I won't pick you up on it. Don't feel conscious. I shouldn't have said anything. I feel conscious about it.
It's all good. And then from there, I started realising, just got to be myself, and that's when stuff really started to progress, and we started to see, okay, this could be something here. Okay. And it was actually Pez that was like, well, for me, I was still playing basketball at the time, thinking that was what I was going to do as a career.
So you're quite good.
Yeah.
You're quite tall. I didn't realize how tall you are. You're 6'4", aren't you?
Yeah. So, I wouldn't say I was that good. I could shoot threes, but that's probably about it. But Pez was something else. Like, he was sick at basketball. He played state. He was like really, really good, really gifted. Yeah. But he had a bunch of injuries that knocked him out of it. I had issues with my vision that ended up just killing my drive for it, because I ended up going blind in my right eye, so I just couldn't really shoot properly anymore.
Is that still even today?
Yeah, it's I've got this disease called keratoconus, and I've had this corneal graft, which is like a cornea transplant.
Wow.
And it's because the disease, what it does, it erodes your cornea, puts it in a cone shape, and if you don't get it fixed, it can pop, and apparently it's really painful if the fluids all go into your eye and stuff. So I got that transplant done, and then once the stitches were all taken out of my eye, it was like just the vision was gone. It was just it's just like if I shut my left eye, it's like looking underwater. I just can't really see anything out of it. So it makes my depth perception really shit. So like if I was to grab a bottle and try and pour it, I'd probably pour it straight onto that.
Okay.
But it was a blessing in disguise, and at the time it just rocked my world, made me think, what am I going to do with myself? But.
And how old were you at this point?
It's about 19.
19, okay.
And then that just made music the main vice for me and a main outlet. And I never thought of it as something that could be a career. And then Pez was like, dude, he was very, very all about this very early, which is amazing. He was like, fuck working a 9 to 5 and just slaving away and not being happy. Let's do this and become the biggest rappers in the country. And I was like, is that possible? And he was just like, of course. He had all this belief, all this self-belief. At the time, it was like infectious. It was amazing. And he got me to start believing that. And once I got on that, I was like, all right, let's do it. And I quit my job the next day, pretty much. I was doing an apprenticeship.
Apprenticeship, okay.
As a chippy. And I quit. And I quit via text because I was a puss, you know, not good at communicating. We'll get into this more during the podcast.
Yeah.
It's a people pleaser side of me that doesn't want any confrontation.
Yep.
Done it by text like an idiot.
Yeah.
But that started that journey of us making music and doing our thing. And with the label that I'd signed to when I was 16, we sort of kept working together. But once I'd made the change in the direction I was making musically, it wasn't what they were envisioning for me.
Just from the conversation we had yesterday, you were like underground.
Yes.
Like
very underground, raw hip hop, very...
like rap battles? Is that like...
Sort of. It's I wouldn't say rap battles like specifically, but the style of rap was very much battle rap influence kind of thing. It was very, very hardcore rap kind of stuff. But I was doing rap battles at the time.
Was that intense? Is it intense to...
Yeah. It's amazing. It's really, really cool. Like the rap battles have been probably some of the biggest driving forces behind me getting to where I got, you know. Before I did Falling and Flying, I'd done a bunch of battles and they were really, really big. And they were probably the best promotion I've done.
Really?
Falling and Flying, for people who don't know, is like probably one of your biggest
album.
Yeah.
So it's my second album and it was the most successful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine doing a rap battle. Can you imagine, like, just...
No, I can't imagine.
the pressure. Like, when you think about... If I think about the things in the world that make me most nervous, I think right up there would be doing a rap battle.
But it surprises me, Matt, that because I really relate to wanting to avoid confrontation. So why can you rap battle if confrontation is so hard for you?
Bizarre, isn't it? I don't know. Like it can be, I can be so genuine in rap. I can be very real in my music. I always have been. But in personal life, it's just totally different. And I don't know why that is. It's just this weird thing I've got. Like I can rap about whatever's going on in my life, but to actually go and talk to people about whatever's going on in my life, I almost find impossible.
Yeah,
It's bizarre. I'm getting better at it. I used to, like at the moment, the journey I'm on is like all about setting boundaries, saying no, just being just authentic as possible and just saying the uncomfortable things that I never wanted to say before. And it's so much better living like that.
Yeah.
Because in the past, you just let people walk all over you when you're just too afraid to say anything. And it was just horrible.
When you're in a rap battle, does it feel like conflict or does it feel like a performance?
Feels like a performance, and it feels like a bit of both. It's quite, because you do say some stuff that's crosses a line, you know, for a lot of people. But if you enter into a battle rap, that's what you're entering into. So yeah, like
so you kind of know that there are some there are some assumed rules here that you can play with.
Yeah, and I like pushing it.
Yeah.
I like going a little bit too far sometimes, and I find that kind of fun. Yeah. But the thing is with battle rap, like I'd actually really love to get back into it because I feel like the stuff that I'm writing at the moment would be very good to do in battle rap. I feel like I could do really well if I got into it. But the nerves that I get when I'm battling is insane, like just crazy. I used to have to drink through it kind of thing. So it's like whether I could do that now, I'm not quite sure. But I'm hoping to reach a place where I'll be keen to do it again.
Yeah, wow.
You were just talking before about how you often don't communicate stuff well in person. And just from what I learned about you yesterday, that has kind of been your undoing a little bit with some really serious stuff that's happened as your career's been taking off and you're getting bigger and bigger. Your mental health was probably going the opposite direction. You were saying yesterday and you just didn't reach out to people. I I'm just fascinated to hear the story. I mean, you released a video on YouTube and Facebook that had 15 million views on Facebook. It's got 6 million views on YouTube, and it's you rapping about your struggles with addiction. Could you sort of, for the people who haven't heard that story, can you talk us through that? And then also, I guess, reflect on how you didn't reach out at all throughout that.
Yeah. So with drugs and alcohol, I'd always been quite a big partier, like someone who would go on a lot of benders and just drink and get on a lot of cocaine and stuff like that. And we were doing that early on. It was just on the weekends and stuff. But then,
how old were you? Sorry, around this,
probably about
roughly
21 when that started.
Okay.
I started late,
Yep.
partying and drinking and everything. I started quite late. And then once music took off and then came into a fair bit of money, it was just like, well, we can just do this every day. There's no point coming down. You don't have to.
Yeah.
Like, and I never really thought of it as a problem. I just thought, we're just living it up until you try to stop. And then you start going through like withdrawals and stuff like that. So that's when I started using stuff like OxyContin and benzos and stuff like that, which are downers. So like OxyContin's opioids, really strong painkillers. And I had a doctor who was really lovely guy, but I pretty much could get anything I wanted. And I was in there getting 80 milligram OxyContin box a week pretty much and just charging through them like crazy, right? And I had such a huge tolerance because I'd been doing it for years. Like this is what people knew, that I was partying and going on benders, but no one knew what I was doing
To come
when
down.
I was to come down. Exactly. Because I was just, I can't handle this come down feeling. So this stopped. The painkillers completely stopped hangovers, everything. It was just like a cheap drug. And then, but over time, that snowballs big time. And it got to the point where I had a tour coming up and I was like, I don't know how the fuck I'm going to do this. This is going to be incredibly difficult. So I was like 3 months out, I started trying to get clean. I was living in an apartment at the time. So I was like, asked my parents if I could go and stay there, and just said, I told them that I was just depressed, and just needed to chill. They could sense something was up, but they didn't know what it was. And then I could make it to probably day 3 or day 4 without touching anything, but I'd just get so sick and mentally fucked up that I'd end up just breaking and going down and having to either get more OxyContin or go and use, if I couldn't get access to that, I'd either use heroin or Nurofen Plus from the pharmacy because it has codeine in it. And you used to be able to get that without a script. So then I realized right before the tour, I was like, well, I'm not going to get clean. So the best way to do it would be just try and stock up with as much codeine and stuff as I can. So I just went around, I went to so many different pharmacies, and my entire suitcase was basically just full of Nurofen Plus boxes. It's an ugly sight. Wow. There was hardly any clothes in there at all. And so at this point, this sounds crazy. A lot of people don't actually believe it, but my tolerance was that high. I was taking 90 Nurofen Plus a day. So
Jeez,
3 boxes, which is fucking hardcore. Like, I hate swallowing tablets, like hate it. So it was swallowing 90 was a bit of a chore.
Yeah, shit habit for someone who doesn't like swallowing tablets.
Yeah, and I remember some of the filthiest shit. Like, you do some filthy shit when you're in active addiction. Like, I remember going to like public bathroom because I'd be so like in withdrawals and fucked up that I'd be like, okay, I've got to go do this straight away. I'd go get the boxes. I'd go up to the public bathroom wherever I was, and I'd sit on the floor and I'd pop them all out into a beanie, and then I'd take a sip of water, then put about 10 in my mouth and just try and swallow them down. And then this one time they all came back out, and I ended up putting them all back in.
Wow.
Because it was just that fucked. Like, you're just that fucking desperate. It's just so bad. And I even feel the shame when I just say that, just go through my whole body.
It's incredible you can talk about it.
Yeah,
I think.
It really is.
Yeah. So just to put a time stamp on it, so is this during like Falling and Flying tour? Is that time?
This was after Falling and Flying. So this would have been about Utopia, which was the album after Falling and Flying.
So you're at the height of your popularity. You'd be on the radio. You're famous at this stage. You know, you're and loved.
Extremely,
fan base.
It was like we were at the height of killing it. Really, we were just absolutely smashing it. So I think the name of my album, Falling and Flying, was actually quite
apt.
Just to go back to that image you've just painted for us of you in a public bathroom, like throwing up the medication and then trying to take it again. What is that? Just even retelling that story, what does that feel like? It looked like quite a
painful.
Yeah.
Just feel a lot of shame because it just, for me, that's dirty shit. Like that's scummy behavior. But you do that.
Did it feel when you, and I'm sorry if this is getting too specific, you don't have to answer any of these questions, but when, at the time, when you do something like that, do you feel a sense of shame about it at the time, or is it more like the desperation outweighs the shame?
You feel absolutely pathetic. You just feel just like, look what I'm doing to myself. You know, I'm fucking swallowing vomit with these tablets that have almost started degrading. It's like the most disgusting thing ever. It's like, it's not nice, but that's what addiction does, man. I'll tell you more stories as well as we get into it. There's so much ugly shit that you do just to get out of the feeling because you feel so rotten.
Yeah.
You would do anything to get out of it. It's better than that feeling, you know?
Yeah.
So even dealing with all that shame of doing something that's just so gross feels better than feeling that.
And I guess I'm guessing, but I guess when you're in that state of mind as well, there doesn't really feel like there is any other option but to do it.
No, it doesn't. And the thing is, there is though.
Yeah.
It really is. Like, and I wish I knew that at the time. Like I could have, like for this tour that we had, this was like my comeback from after Falling and Flying. The whole trajectory of my career would have gone upwards if I had have been able to just communicate what was going on to a doctor or something like that.
Did you tell it? Did anyone know?
No one knew. No one knew. I just couldn't admit it. I think I was just so ashamed of it. I just never want to be a burden on anyone. So whenever I'm going through something, I just don't tell them. I'm happy to talk about it afterwards, but when I'm in the moment, I just can't. Like I can say stuff like I'm feeling flat, you know, just want to be left alone really. But that's it. Yeah. So with that tour, I was doing those 90 tablets a day, and because my tolerance was that high, it wasn't actually making me feel anything. It was just making me not feel sick. It's just what I needed to just feel kind of normal. And then,
so you weren't even getting a high from from the 90 tablets. Wow.
Nah. And then I had a Byron Bay show, and that morning I was like, I want to actually feel something. So I had 4 boxes of it instead of 3, and then I just started convulsing on the floor and woke up in hospital. I was on suicide watch. They thought I tried to kill myself because they found my suitcase with all the boxes in it, and they were like, what's going on here? Like, you're trying to kill yourself? And I'm like, no, that's literally what I do every day.
Yeah.
And they just couldn't believe it. They were just like, we don't believe you. You just got to tell us why you tried to kill yourself. And I'm like, I didn't fucking try to kill myself. Like, it's really infuriating when someone says you tried to kill yourself, but you didn't.
Do you mind me asking who's they? Do you mean doctors or people in your life?
Doctors at that hospital in Byron, yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
I mean, they meant well. It's like, of course they're going to think that, you know what I mean? But I definitely wasn't trying to do that at all.
So you're struggling with this addiction, and you're sort of trying to kind of like chase this, or not even chase, but like run from this feeling of pain but then you're going and you're doing shows, and you're doing like these huge shows where you're adored. And how do the shows feel? So like when you're on stage and you're performing and you've just gone through whatever you've gone through with addiction, maybe you've been in the public bathroom or whatever's happened, does the shame stop? Like how does the performing, I guess, coexist with that addiction?
It became like the shows were crazy. The shows were amazing.
Yeah.
There was you wouldn't even think there was something wrong, you know? And I would drink, I would do all the drugs and stuff while I was before I was performing, like go on benders before and everything like that. And it used to sort of I'd come out of my shell a lot more. I'd perform really well and I wouldn't lose my voice. So it was kind of like every time we do a show, I had my managers coming back going, whatever you're doing, just keep doing it. 'Cause
Oh, God.
you're killing it.
Really?
Yeah, wow.
So I was just like, all right, I'll keep doing it.
And they definitely had no idea.
Nah, they didn't know that I was doing all that shit.
Yeah.
But that, like, if I had have just gone, okay, look, guys, I'm struggling with addiction here. They've got a drug that I ended up getting put on later, called Suboxone, which is like this replacement drug that, so if you're on opioids or anything like that, they put you on this thing called Suboxone, which covers your opioid receptors in your brain. So it makes it so you can't get high on any other opioids, but it also takes away the withdrawals that you get. So I could have just done the tour just doing that, but because I was too afraid of saying anything, the worst possible thing that happened. Me overdosing, landing in hospital, them holding the phone out to me and saying, it's your parents, you've got to tell them everything. And that was just like, fucked. That was just so hard. Because that, like, my parents are beautiful, sweet people, probably quite sheltered from that aspect of life, addiction and stuff like that. Although my father's seen a lot of deaths in his family from alcoholism. So he was very anti all that kind of stuff. So for them to get such a rude awakening would have been very taxing on them.
So what was that like telling them?
Oh, it was so hard, man.
Over the phone?
Yeah, it's just very hard.
Do you remember what you said?
Look, I think I was like, look, I fucked up. I've been addicted to painkillers for a while now, and I had an overdose last night, and yeah, now I think I need help. I need to get into a rehab or something.
And what did they say?
And they were just supportive. They were just great parents, you know, which is the hardest part because it's like, man, I live to impress my father, you know. It's difficult to just think of what I've put them through, because they don't deserve it, and they're just amazing, you know. I don't think I would have got through any of it without him. But they're unconditional love, you know, support. So they've been great. But then from there, I flew to Detox in Melbourne, and they put me on that drug that I was just mentioning, Suboxone. So I got on that. I got off. I was on these crazy benzos at the time, the strongest ones you could get. So that was a nightmare to come off those. And then from then, that's when I stopped partying and drinking and going on benders and stuff. So that was about 11 years ago now. So I haven't touched a drink or any illicit substances since then.
Wow.
But I've had issues with the medication. So it's like that Suboxone, I was on that for years. And because you don't feel or get high off it or anything like that, I was like, I got to this point where I was not doing well. And I was like, I went to my doctor and I started lying to him, like saying they're not working for me anymore. I keep going into withdrawals. I was making up stuff so I could get on this other medication, which is called methadone, which is the same kind of thing, but you can abuse it and you can feel it. So and it can be, it can kill you. So I knew that. So I was chasing that high. I don't know if I would have admitted it at the time. I was probably lying to myself in 1,000 different ways. And then I got on that, and then that just destroyed me. I like exploded, like weight-wise, let myself go. I was just such a mess, and got to a point where I was just so bad. I just said, look, I've got to go. I've got to go check myself into rehab. So I went into a place called ARIA for about 4 months at the start of the pandemic. And then that's when I got off the methadone.
Wow. So how long were you on the methadone for?
I think a couple of years.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's hard with that because it stays in your system for ages. Like rehab was so hard. It was wild. I had a ball in there. Like I had a very, very fun time. Like I met some really nice people, and you have real delusional kind of laughs with people, and you develop these amazing connections in there. But you've got to do a lot of unpacking of your shit. Yeah, you're in there, you've hit rock bottom. It's like, all right, this is what you need to do if you want to fix yourself. You've got to unpack everything. And so I did that in front of 25 people, just like basically just let it all out, where everyone's sharing their own journey. Everyone's doing it. You know, everyone's sharing what they've been through and stuff like that. And I did that too. And I feel like I probably overshared. I didn't think about that when at the time. I just thought, oh, this is what I've got to do to get better. And then as soon as I got out of rehab, I was like, I just like all these connections that I thought I'd made, I just retracted from everyone because I was like, I felt like naked, like I'd overshared so much that I just felt that like they knew too much about me, or someone was going to use it against me, or you know, it would go to the media and tell them all these fucked up stories that I had that sort of led me to become an addict and stuff like that. And yeah, I just disappeared when I got out. I was so bad. Like I can't even explain what that feeling is like. I was bad in the most dark place mentally, physically, just not barely sleeping, only getting probably an hour or two, just very chopped sleep for like 4 months. It was just insanity inducing, and that was the hardest. Like I was talking about the public bathroom thing. Like during that situation, I was so bad, and I just didn't know what to do. I saw that there was alcohol in fucking Listerines. I drank Listerine to get myself out of it. You know, fucking. I don't even know if I wanted to admit that, but that's just reality, you know.
Yeah.
I just think it's truly amazing that you're willing to talk about it, because I just feel like this is what so many people who've probably going through similar things, or know people who are going through similar things, like this is really quite, it's obviously confronting for you to talk about.
But it's also like that, sorry to interrupt, but it's just, you hear about people with addiction all the time, you think, well, they've got an addiction, but you don't know the inner workings of it. You don't know the inner turmoil. You kind of imagine it, but to actually hear it from someone's so wildly successful as well.
I think so. I think with addiction, one thing that the way I'd explain it is everyone has it inside them, 100%. Everyone has a little demon that's inside them that if they feed enough, they will cross over the line into addiction. So for me, and for everyone, I feel like that demon is a little bit different though. Like for me, it was like quite strong. As soon as I started really feeding it a lot of drugs and alcohol, it just got so out of control and strong that I just had nothing. And it becomes like, good way to put it is, have you been to Bali? You know, when you walk through the markets and you get people going, hey, come in and buy this stuff.
Yeah.
It's like that in your head.
Oh, yeah.
But it's like for each drug, it's like someone hey, quick, come in here, do this. You know, it's like this just constant noise, and you're in a fight with these people to not do the substances. And it just controls your life when you're in the thick of it. But when you can get past it and figure out how to deal with it, how to deal with those emotions that you're trying to escape and stuff like that, you can get on top of it. It's always going to be there though. That's the thing. Once you've woken it up, it's always there. But the amount of work that you put in, you can keep it pretty quiet.
So early in your career, you were like lucky enough to meet Pez, and Pez gives you this incredible advice to be yourself and to sort of, from a performing and a writing point of view, it's like essentially write your truth. What's it like then becoming successful, and then you're a writer, you know, you're writing about your life essentially as an artist, but there's a huge part of your life which has to be a secret. So there's this huge experience that you're living with that you actually can't write about and you can't express. Was that ever tough for you to do?
Yeah, for sure. It has an effect on you because you end up feeling like fake. You just feel just inauthentic, and you become a master at lying, but mainly to yourself.
Yeah,
you know, the lies that you tell yourself is just the most mind blowing stuff, because your mind is just so cunning and tricky and stuff like that. You can tell yourself things that it's really hard to explain. But like, yeah.
To allow yourself to do what you're doing.
Yeah.
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 But I guess you would be like, I mean, I don't know your writing process, but if you're sitting down and you're going, I'm going to write something today, if the main things coming into your mind are like what your truth is and the things that you're battling with, and like, but you're like, well, I can't tell anyone.
Oh, I was actually quite open with the music.
Okay, so in the music. Okay,
yeah.
sure.
It was always in the music. I was always quite real about it.
Okay,
which is sort of what I was saying before. Is like I've always been able to be very, very probably super real in my music and just very honest in music, and not in real life.
Gotcha. Okay.
And that's a character flaw for sure for me. Like, well, just something that I really have wanted to work on, and what I'm currently working on at the moment is, being honest with myself and living an authentic life. Like, that's the main goal at the moment.
Yeah.
It's funny that you characterize it as a character flaw, in that that must be a tricky thing to square it inside yourself, given that it serves you so well as an artist. So it plays such a role of making you as good as you are, but then it's not healthy for you as a human being outside that. That must be really difficult.
Yeah, definitely. It's a weird dynamic to have.
Yeah. I wanted to ask, because obviously the choice when it was the packets of Nurofen Plus, the choice to tell people and do something about it was kind of taken out of your hands. But it sounds like with methadone you made a choice. How did you get from wanting to trick the doctor into giving you more methadone into going, nah, I got to do something about this? Like, can you remember how that shift happened, or what? Like, how do you get from one to the other?
It was interesting. I'd gotten so overweight and very unhealthy and just not happy. I was just depressed, and my doctor gave me a bit of tough love. He was like, you look absolutely horrible. You look miserable. You need to sort your shit out. And I hated hearing that, but it was the truth, and I needed to hear it. I just needed the brutal honesty. And I think that sort of played in my mind a little bit, and I was like, all right, I've got to do this. I'm so sick of living like, because you just get to a point where you're just like, I am so over just living in darkness all the time. Like, I want life to be good. So sick of this shit, you know what I mean? And yeah, lucky I did it. It took a while to actually see some light in my life again. Like, it's only been happening in the last year to 6 months, I reckon.
What was that like when you started seeing light again?
Oh, awesome.
And so what did you do? Like I'm so interested in the stuff that you do to start to recover.
So when I got out, it was bad. So I was just, every day I was just feeling so fucked because I just wasn't sleeping. And that, for me, that just makes me feel shit anyway. But add coming off a drug and the withdrawals, like, you can't imagine what withdrawals actually feel like. It feels like the worst flu you'll ever have. But mentally you feel paranoid, and just, I lost all confidence in myself. I was a shell of who I used to be. Just gone, completely gone. There was really no hope in me. I thought I was done. This is it. Like, I won't be able to keep doing music. And I was like, I know what I've got to do. I know I've got to start exercising, because in the past that's been the main thing that has helped my mental health. But I just couldn't get the motivation. And that lasted for ages. So I was like on my phone for about a year or two, all day, sitting on my phone, just scrolling through social media, Reddit, Twitter, whatever, and just trying to escape that feeling because I didn't have anything else to. And it's probably 14 hours a day of just doing that. And then I saw some advice that was like, are you struggling to get motivated? Here's a tip. And it worked for me. So it was, commit to doing 1 push-up a day, and then while you're down there, you might as well tell yourself to do more. So I started, all right, I'll do that. I'll commit to 1 push-up a day, get down, and I started, maybe by doing 10. And then after a few months, that evolved into doing like proper workout at home with my full body, using bands and stuff like that. And I started to get a little bit of confidence back, and I started to see like a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. But I had to make those changes. I was living in this perpetual victim complex. Like I think the most crucial learning part of it was me figuring out no one's going to come and save me. I've got to do it myself. Like I was just sitting there like a victim of my circumstances so much. And it was like, fuck that. I got to see my circumstances differently then. You know, like everything was like, so for example, fame, I struggled with that big time. In my head, my inner monologue was, I can't meet a chick because they're just going to be interested because of who I am. Or friends don't care about me because they just care about who I am. So I was looking at everything like that with this, why would I look at everything like that when it's like I'm in a fucking pretty amazing place? That's not a bad thing. Like I just had to shape, I had to change the way my whole attitude about everything. So like I was like, I can't do anything. I was so bad. I looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, I couldn't even look at myself because it was just felt so much shame and shit like that. And I was like, this has to change. So I was just like constantly telling myself, no, I can do this. I'm going to get better. And it's just changing the narrative from this is fucked. I'm just out, you know, I'm not going to be able to fix this to I actually can. And over time that slowly has changed, but just taking myself out of it and realizing that the way I was living was in this as a victim. And it's hard to say because like, yeah, I think we I want to say this so it's not offensive or anything, but with mental health issues, like it's really good to be open about it and it helps destigmatize it. But at the same time, you can go too far, I think, and you can go to enabling and mollycoddling. And I think that's what was happening with me. It was like I was just like stuck there, like, oh, life's shit and blah blah blah, just finding everything to be negative about. And I just had to switch that up. And that's the way I did it, was through slowly doing exercise, music as well. Music was a huge part.
Listening or writing?
Writing,
yeah.
Yeah, I actually lost my love for music though. At the time, I wasn't listening to anything. I didn't want to listen to anything. I don't, and that's
why do you think that is?
I'm not sure. I'm really not sure what that is, but that has happened for years. Like I wasn't listening to any music. I might check out certain people when they drop a single or like a new video. I might check out the song, but that's it. I wasn't listening to music, which is weird.
Were you in contact with like other musicians who you're friends with in the industry? Were you?
At this time, I'd separated from everyone and just I'd pretty much gone, all right, I'm disconnecting from everything, like social media, everything. I'm just focusing on myself and putting myself first and just going full selfish with it. I don't even think that's selfish. I think that's just what you've got to do when it's life or death, you know?
Yeah.
It seems when we were playing the theme song before, when we were getting ready to start talking, you were listening to the music very intently and taking it all in. But I'm particularly fascinated to know that feeling of being able to find, because it seemed like you had joy, some feeling of joy listening to that music before. And from the way you're describing, it feels like colours back in your life, so for want of a better term. Can you remember moments where you caught yourself going, oh, I'm actually finding interest in things, or like I can engage, or I'm finding joy in music, or
definitely the music was the only thing that was actually bringing any like color in my life. So it was like my life was living in this world of grey. Everything was just grey. And then after probably about a year of really training, exercising, was when I started really seeing color come back into my life. At first it was just little glimpses of it, but it was there. So it kind of let me know, it's still there. It's still there. I can still do it, because I was convinced that, I don't think I can do this anymore. I don't think I can perform anymore, all that kind of stuff. But seeing those little glimpses of color just made me keep going. And then actually going to the gym was a huge turning point, because I was like fearful of leaving the house, you know. Like all this happened at the height of COVID. So like me getting out of rehab was right when I entered stage 4 lockdown. So it was like added a whole other element to it.
Yeah.
Just really confusing time for me.
What did you learn through COVID?
So without getting into specifics too much, like I said to you, I don't want this to turn into a big political thing or anything like that. But I learned that at the time I was operating from a place of fear. I made some decisions that ended up not being good for me. And I realize now that I will never make decisions from a place of fear again.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I'm jumping back a long way in the story now. And sorry, I tend to mull over things for a while before I can ask a question. So
All
I'm
good.
sorry to throw you back a bit here, but
All good.
when you had to tell your parents, when someone said you got to tell your parents, I'm sure the shame was indescribable. But was there any part of you that felt like a little kid who kind of wanted to tell your parents?
There was so much relief afterwards. Massive relief. It was great feeling. You know what I mean? Finally, they understand. They finally know I don't have to hide it anymore. I can just live now. It was really freeing, I guess, at the time, to be able to just go, finally. It's just like, it's such a weight off my shoulders, because it's like you're carrying that for so long.
Yeah.
Not a secret anymore.
I think that's, and I see that overdose that happened as a sort of blessing, because it made me have to be upfront with people, and then people were aware of it. So it's like, I'm just lucky I didn't die, because it's like I got a second chance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, because I imagine the whole time you didn't want to tell anyone, but you must have wanted someone to.
Yeah, I definitely wanted people to know. But yeah, you just feel so like a shit cunt, you know?
Yeah.
You just feel like a loser, like, oh man, I've gone down that path. I'm that dude. I'm the rapper who's I'm like so much in a monologue of me, like, oh, I'm a fucking cliche, you know? Getting famous and then getting swallowed by drugs and shit. But I'm fucking determined not to let that be my story. You know, like at the moment I'm busting my ass doing a lot of work to completely change that. Like I want this next part of my career to show that you can get over this shit, and it's like very doable. And I do feel like that at the moment I feel quite confident that I'll be able to conquer these demons that I've got, and get my career back to pumping again, you know?
I have very, very limited experience and knowledge of addiction. I think a lot of us do have sort of misconceived ideas, and you hear bits and pieces. And I think one of the most incredible things about what you've done today is give such a brutally and bravely honest portrayal of it. I think there's a perception in my mind, or used to be anyway, when I was growing up, that you decide to get clean or whatever happens, and you go, and then you're out, and it's like a linear journey. And I learnt a long time ago that it's more of a cyclical thing where you can go back in and out, and you're on an intention to get out of it. But I don't quite understand how that journey can begin.
So yeah, for me it was all about, I just got to the point where it was like I was sitting there for years just so upset and dark and stuff. I was just like, I'm over it. I'm done. Like I'm so fucking fed up of living this life that is just not fun. I'm just sitting there existing, not doing anything. And I was like ready. All right, I've got to make the change. Now I'm ready to actually make the change. And I think that's something that everyone has to be aware of, is you can't force an addict to change. Like any time that in the past when like I was with my ex and she found out that I was using and I got clean for her, but I relapsed because I wasn't ready to stop. I just wasn't ready. And I think you have to go through the full battle of hitting rock bottom and just realizing that my life is going to end unless I fucking stop this shit. So I'm going to make a change. So it just always comes down to them being ready.
Yeah, I went and saw Nick Cave do his, I don't know if you've heard of his tour where he just, anyone could ask him any questions from the audience.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was called the Red Hand Tour, I think. And it was a wild experience, but it was like he played songs. It was just him and a piano playing some tunes. Then he'd play like 2 or 3 songs and then he'd say, all right, who wants to ask me something?
Holy
And
shit.
they had people with microphones going around. And there were people breaking down, talking about children that they've lost and asking how they deal with this. And he would just do his best to answer it honestly.
Wow.
And that someone asked a question about they lost a child to addiction and was asking if they could have done something. And he said there's nothing you could have done. They needed to, because he's lost friends through addiction. And he said they needed to make the decision themselves and there's nothing you could have done to change it.
Spot on. And that's how it is. And it's unfortunate because like you can have a loved one going through it and just want with every fiber of your being for them to stop, but until they're ready to stop, they're just not going to. So the only thing you can really do is just be there for them. So when they are ready to stop, they've got that support. But it can be at the same time, it can be bloody difficult because people have got their like, you become destructive. Like your life starts fucking up in every direction and, you can be a toxic person to be around. So at the same time, people also have to have the awareness to realize if someone's too much, like you can't give up your life to try and save someone as well. Like they just have to be ready for it. It's very complicated shit.
Yeah, because I feel like there'd be, if you're the partner of like your romantic partner at the time, I imagine, well, I don't know, but if it were me, I would feel like a responsibility to help that I didn't sign up for. It's like this responsibility. It's like, well, I can't, even though this is really hard for me, I can't leave you because you need me. Well, that's the perception. And so then people do just sort of stay in the relationship.
Yeah.
Like how like, was there anything like that where like the partner might, and then if you relapse, if you get off it and then you relapse, I imagine the partner could be like, oh, well, you couldn't even do it for me. You couldn't even, you sort of take it personally.
Absolutely. There was elements of that for sure. The ex that I'm talking about, she was actually just a brilliant person, really, really kind and really understanding. I think she had family members who had gone through it, so she knew what it was.
Yeah.
But I don't think if there is someone that's like in your life that's an addict and you don't think you can be there for, I don't think there's anything wrong with that either. I think that's just how it is. Like if you've got to, I think people need to put themselves and their mental health and their life first always. Even though, I mean, it's very complicated because you want to help out and all that kind of stuff. But
I guess it's different for every scenario. Isn't it?
Yeah.
You said before that the demon will always be there to a certain size. Do you know what you'll do if it starts to grow a bit again looking forward? Like, would you tell someone that you can feel it growing, or like, have you thought about that?
I haven't really, because like with my recovery process, it's been a lot different to most people, where most people would get into the NA program.
Yeah.
And I think that stuff's really helpful. And
what's the NA program? Sorry.
It's like going to meetings where people like Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous.
Yeah, okay, gotcha. Sorry. Yep.
So that for me, I tried that, but it just wasn't for me. Just for a few reasons, but I won't go into that. But for me, it's just been about just focusing on being healthy and happy, and that's sort of been the driving force. But as far as if that demon starts popping up again, I think I've quite open with my therapist that I had, and now I've got an actual life coach. So we talk about everything. So I think I'll just be honest with them,
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's incredible. To have someone that you can do that with is everything.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Can I ask you one more question about the addiction, and then I want to move on to, because there's some incredible, I mean, the highs of we've really focused on the struggles that you've been through, but the highs of your career are just, they're extraordinary. One last question, if you feel comfortable answering, of course.
Yeah.
We've had a guy called Johan Hari on our podcast before, and he speaks about addiction and says that addiction is an attempt to numb something in your life or escape from something in your life. Have you, through all the work you've done with a therapist and your life coach, have you been able to identify what it is that you're trying to numb or what you're trying to escape from? Or have you felt like there is something, even when I say those two words, is there something that leaps out to you, think, yeah, that's what I'm trying to escape or that's what I'm trying to numb? And again, really personal question. So
yeah, the therapy that I did helped uncover literally every single issue that I've got. We unpacked everything, everything, you know, like things from childhood and why I became such a people pleaser and stuff like that. I don't know if there was anything I was escaping specifically. I didn't feel like I was.
Yeah.
Like I don't think I was using, but I think everyone is. So yeah, it's a tricky one because at the time I'm not aware that I'm not thinking of that and going,
yeah, of
I've
course.
got to escape that.
Yeah.
But I think they contribute to it.
Yes, of course.
I'm struck by the guy we mentioned before, Johan Hari, who we've had on, who has talked a bit about addiction. The phrase he says that the opposite, and I think he's paraphrasing the work of others, but the opposite of addiction is connection.
Yeah, it's not sobriety.
It's not sobriety. It's connection. And
His book is called Chasing the Scream.
Yeah,
For those
which
who want to
we'll
read
put
it.
a link in the show. But it strikes me the way you tell the story of your parents being so non-judgmental and just there for you, that kind of presence allows connection to happen once the person has decided that they're not going to do this anymore. I'd never really thought of it that way, and I don't know if it's true. It felt like,
I think that's very true for sure. Yeah.
So coming up, or essentially, depending on when this is released, but you've got this huge tour coming up. Like, is this your first big tour since becoming clean?
Yeah, since getting out of rehab, this
Wow.
this will be my first tour. This is the first tour in 5 or 6 years.
And so how do you feel approaching that, knowing like what the tour was like for the rest of your career?
Touring for me has always been, I've had a love-hate relationship with it because I love performing, but the traveling is really taxing for me. Anytime I do a tour, at the end of it, I'd always crash in a fucking heap, like big time. I would just come down, have massive come down and be stuck for months. And the last tour that happened, and that was like, I've never ever had a crash like that in my life. So I'm a little bit, at first I was like, I'm very nervous about doing this again. I remember talking to my manager when they were offering, you know, because once I started putting music out again and getting more active on social media, there's all these offers started coming in for shows. And this is right when I just started turning a corner. So I was like, I don't know if I got it in me. But I felt very determined that I think I will be fine. So I was like, all right, I'll accept it. So I'm feeling quite confident about it.
Great.
Because if I'm looking after it, I just have to look after my health, like diet, exercise, and my mental health. If I look after that, eat right, then I'll be fine. And I'm keeping it slow. Like usually we would go on all these dates. It would, you know, have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday shows. So this, I'm just keeping it to just weekends. So Friday, Saturday, then I fly back for the week. So it's not really that taxing.
Right. Yep.
Just to start off, just so I can see how I go. And then once, if like I'm, you know, thriving, which I feel like I will be, then we'll go a lot harder.
wow.
Oh, I imagine your fans will be pretty pumped to see you live again.
Yeah.
Especially with this renewed energy and vigor for life and this new approach that I think it's so exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting. I feel like it's a completely different person now. It's bizarre.
Well, you sent me some music last night that you've written and I listened to it and it was so it was so uplifting. Like I felt so uplifted listening to it, and I feel like that's obviously the energy that you're bringing to your writing, to your music now. It's that must feel great.
Yeah, it does. It really does. Like I've been so much more confident. Like I had no confidence and just no love for myself at all. And now I'm getting to a place where I love myself again and I feel confident in myself again. Like I'm like before when I came into the music industry, I was such a people pleaser and so unsure of myself that like I always had my own hands steering my own ship. But along the way, as soon as the fame came in and stuff, there was a lot of people coming in, putting their hands on the wheel, trying to push me a direction they thought I should go. And because I was so new to it all, I would let that outside influence me a lot more than I should. And now I've learned it's like I'm just going with my gut and feeling my way through the whole thing. And that's all I'm doing now. And instead of thinking about this stuff, like if people come in and say, you should do this, if my gut says to do it, I'll do it. If my gut says not to do it, I won't do it. I'm going off gut in everything. And it hasn't served me wrong really at all. Like,
love that.
I've learned a lot. Like it's quite simple at the same time. It's like I had to figure out, okay, as a person, what are my values that I respect in other people and that I want to project in myself? Like what kind of person do I want to be? Because I really lost myself for a while there. And figuring out the principles and the value system that I want to operate by, I have to live in alignment with this value system. Otherwise my head gets cloudy. So like most days I feel pretty energetic and very inspired to just make music constantly. And say there's something going on and I need to have an uncomfortable conversation with someone that I don't want to have, where I would usually push it to the side. If I don't have that conversation, my head gets noisy and I don't feel inspired. But as soon as I have that conversation that I need to have and get it out the way, suddenly life becomes good again. So it's like it's really that simple. If I live my life with those values and live in alignment with them, then I'm good and I'm happy, and that's it.
I love that. I reckon we understate to ourselves often the mental energy it takes to have an issue with someone or in a relationship that you're not talking about. I think we underestimate the mental energy that takes to deal with, and it absolutely subtracts from our output and our work in all areas of life. And you said to me yesterday, and I thought about that so much. It's so true. Do you mind talking about, are you happy to know what values you sort of come up with for yourself?
Yeah,
that really interests me.
Yeah. So like I really, really admire people who are unapologetically themselves and very authentic and honest. I guess because I haven't been like that for a lot of my life, you know? And so that's something I very much admire. I admire kindness and compassion. But authenticity is one of the main ones. Like I want to be completely just authentic, like be authentic or don't speak. I don't think there's any point in doing it, you know? Also confidence that, and faith in myself that I can make the right decisions. Like I was always like, no, I can't. Say someone else would say, all right, you should take your career this way. I'll be like, all right, I'll listen to them. I'll hear them out. But if I do that, I can't go and blame them because it's my choice. So like putting faith in myself again has been really, really empowering. Like putting that trust back in myself that I'm just going to make the right decisions. And if I don't, the only person to blame is myself, but that's okay. It's a learning process.
But that's like, I feel like a lot of people, I went through a similar thing where it's like that the confronting thing that you talked about before, where you realize it's all up to me. Like I have to do this, like whether it's getting healthy or making the right career decisions or whatever it is. It's like, it's sort of, and I think everyone probably experiences this when you're younger, which is you happily listen and take the advice of others because you can kind of hide behind it if it fails. So if it goes badly, you can go, oh, well, I was just listening to Max or whatever, like Max said, and he's done this for 20 years. So what, so he should know. And then you do it, and if it doesn't work, you can sort of feel okay that it wasn't your choice, and you don't be down on yourself.
Yeah.
So to get to a point where you can trust yourself and know that, like, no, I'm really the only one who can live my life.
Yeah. So that's been the hugest thing for me, is taking back ownership of all my shit, like in every aspect of my life. I had to. When I say going with whatever my gut says, when I was like over the last couple of years, it was just my gut was saying for me to do this myself, I need a fresh start. So I had to like get new management, new record label and stuff like that, which is no like slight to the old ones or anything like that. I've got mad love for them, but it was just something I had to do, and that was hard to do, like having those conversations with people that are like you've been with for ages. Like that was tough, but it just had to be done, and I'm feeling good about it.
You didn't text them?
No.
It must feel pretty good when you have those conversations and the world doesn't sort of collapse.
Yeah, man. That's the thing. I've always had that feeling that if I'm going to tell someone an uncomfortable truth, I'm going to get absolutely flamed for it. And I've always had that mentality for a while, and I hate that, and I really hate that. And I especially got that when I came into the spotlight. I said some things that put my foot in it in certain areas and got extreme public backlash, which really affected me. Like I didn't think it would, but it really did. And I realized, like when I was in rehab, I was like reassessing my career kind of thing. And I realized when I came into the spotlight, I became consumed with this notion that I have to use my platform for good. And I believe that, but I also believe I need to be myself at the same time. It sort of got out of control where I would enter into conversations being just diplomatic and just being super agreeable just to not rock the boat. But if someone asked me something, I wouldn't be authentic completely with it because I didn't want to cause any drama. I'd just be like, well, whatever's going to keep people happy. And I just don't respect myself when I operate like that at all. So that's been one of the biggest things I've wanted to change, is just getting back to being completely authentic and being myself.
People pleasing is an issue that I've had throughout my life. I'm really interested to know where you think that comes from for you.
I'm not sure where people pleasing exactly stems from. Like, I know that I'm someone who's like most people, or a lot of people, I just want to impress my father and just and want his approval. But I'm not sure if it comes from that or not. I think it might be something similar to that. But I think also just I've had a few friendships and relationships, I guess, where I haven't communicated, but when I have, I'd get a really bad response. And I think that definitely added to it. When you know.
Is that when you were younger?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The people pleaser in me was just so dominant for so long. Like, it's only something I've just started battling at the moment. So I'm very, very new to it at the same time. I'm still trying to figure out how to get rid of it. Like, I don't even know if you can get rid of it entirely. Do you know where yours stems from? Like,
Yeah. And I have chatted about it a little bit before. I learned it sort of when I was mid-teenage years. Just our sister was quite sick for a while, and I desperately wanted mum and dad to. There was like kind of this cloud that descended over our family, and I felt like I had the ability to lift people above that cloud by making them laugh or telling stories or just being a little bit outraged, whatever it was. I was so desperate to lift us beyond that cloud for a moment. And it was and then it became, I was able to do it to my family, and then I just wanted to do it everywhere. And then I couldn't, and then it became an expectation I put on myself. Like, you have to do this all the time. And so I had this unrealistic expectation. I had to always lift people and always be bring light to every situation, and that's but that's where it stemmed from, and it became a problem for me because that's not my job to run around doing that everywhere. But I sort of learnt that I could do it at a young age, which was helpful at the time, adaptive, but it didn't serve me well beyond that.
Turns into a massive habit and a really hard one to break. Like you've been in a public eye, do you feel like that amplified? Like, do you have a people pleaser element in you?
Not really. I mean, a little bit. I mean, mine's more. It's sort of connected more to the avoiding conflict.
Okay.
At all costs, and I was actually curious to ask you about that as well, because I know for me, like we've talked on this podcast about this sort of concept of truth versus harmony, and especially in your childhood years, like for me, I now know that the reason that I don't like conflict is because there was no conflict in my house growing up. It was a very harmonious house, and no one ever raised their voices. There was no fighting. It was like very harmonious. And so as I get older, I don't know how to do conflict, so I just avoid it.
And also harmony is the prize thing.
It's the currency.
That's the currency. Like if you're doing well if you're harmonious.
Yeah. And I was actually curious about that with you and your when you were a kid with your family, if it was a harmonious household.
Yeah, it was. That's probably what it is. Yeah. It definitely was. I didn't know how to have those conversations either.
No. And that's what my psychologist said to me, like early on when I first started seeing her. I said, I used to wear it as a badge of honor that I was like the peacemaker in all situations. And I was like, I didn't do conflict and I don't get sucked into those conflict environments as if that was something to be proud of. But as I learned that conflict is actually an important part of life and that's necessary. But she said, well, of course you don't do conflict because no one ever taught you how to do it. Like it was never modeled to me, and not because it's not a bad thing. I was lucky that I had a harmonious childhood, but as a result of that, I don't really know how to do conflict in a way that doesn't feel disastrous. Yeah.
That's it. I'm very much the same. But I would go to extreme lengths to dodge it.
Yeah.
Like brush off conversations for months.
Yeah.
Like, because I don't want to let them down, but then you brush it off for so long that you end up letting them down harder.
Or you end up doing things that you really don't want to be doing just because you didn't want to.
All the time. Yeah, man. That I relate to that hard. Like doing shit for other people's sake. Like I feel like that was a lot of my career, was doing shit for other people's sake rather than my own. And that was one of the most confusing things, was me figuring out like, who the fuck am I? When I went to rehab, I was like, am I making music that I think people want me to make, or am I making music that I want to make? Like I was just so lost.
Where did you get to?
In the middle. I was like, I know there's certain songs that I'd done that were like, oh, that's clearly trying to impress this certain group of people that are into this sound. But yeah, since figuring out that and realizing it's like, you know what, I don't actually give a fuck if people don't like it anymore, you know? Like getting to that point is really empowering.
It's amazing.
To be like, if no one likes it, I actually don't care because I like it.
Geez, I'll let you know when I get to that point.
Yeah.
That'd be amazing.
I mean, that's the ultimate though. That's incredible that you've arrived at that place.
Yeah.
You were saying before, like and we certainly discussed it yesterday, like when you're not speaking your truth, it takes mental energy away from your writing and your music. How exciting to be writing music with this new authentic approach to life where that just excites me, is the music you'll be coming out with.
Yeah, same here. Same
amazing.
Here. I feel like there's no limits on what you can do when you get in a really good place and you know your shit. It took a lot of work though, like really unpacking and like stepping into the shit that was uncomfortable. Like I hated going out of my comfort zone, but now I feel like I'm almost thriving when I step into a place that's uncomfortable. I was not doing well, needed to have the conversation with people, but it was a conversation. It was like a conversation that is basically, these people are not going to be in your life anymore. And I find those conversations are fucking the worst. But I realized I had to do it and I just did it. Like 6 people was just like bang, bang, bang. All right, my life is changing drastically. I'm sorry, but can't see you in it anymore.
Wow.
You know, but in a more delicate way
Yes.
than that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that, like, usually that kind of shit would send me on a spiral out of control, just avoided at all costs. But as soon as I did it, everything in my mind was just back to feeling I had respect for myself.
Oh,
Like I was like, doing that finally, yep, that's what I've just got to keep making sure that I do that. If someone's acting in a way that I don't like or respect, I've got to tell them and just be honest with them. And I think people respect that too.
absolutely.
Like I really respect when someone's straight up with me all the time. So I don't know why I have such a big fear of why I had such a big fear of it, you know? It can be crippling.
It's conflict. It feels disastrous because you never had it as a kid, probably.
And I think you can do it with, it feels like you were saying some of your values are sort of kindness and compassion. And it would feel like, for me anyway, I know maybe I'm just projecting, but conflict can't coexist with that. But I think it actually can.
Yeah.
You can do it in a way. And we've all received it when someone's given us feedback with kindness and compassion or has had a difficult conversation. And you're right, you respect them more.
I think it is actually kindness, yeah. Like if you're having a conversation with someone that's end up going to be better for them and you, I think that is the kind thing to do. And it's almost kinder to yourself as well. Like doing it's very difficult, but it's rewarding.
That's a good point about your values as well. I don't know if you think this, but the kindness and compassion goes inwards as much as outwards.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. Like one thing I've been doing with my coach is how to nurture your mind and how to look after basically like your like when you guys do you guys do therapy and shit?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And like my therapist taught me that the inner voice that gets full of fear is basically like my inner child.
Yeah.
Did you guys learn the same thing?
We've done it.
Similar stuff.
Well, we've talked about it on the episode, on the podcast a little bit. Yeah.
So that any time that voice is coming up being fearful of doing something, it's just I've got to remember to just be like, look, just these thoughts are not helpful whatsoever. Just chill. I've got this. Like I've got this. I've got this. Not my brain. So feeling my way through it again. Yeah, and that's been very, very good to be able to differentiate between what the mind's saying and what the gut's saying, and going around that. Yeah, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah, I had to tell in the sessions where I got to on this, it was took a long time. But I remember getting to a point where I have to kind of thank that voice and go like, I know you're doing your best and trying to help, but it's not helpful.
Yeah.
So I'm not angry at you, but like,
just
it's
fuck
not.
off. Yeah, spot. It is actually like that, eh?
Yeah.
And it works.
Yeah, absolutely.
It actually works.
Yeah.
Like you're looking after, like it is like looking after a little kid in your head. Just like just settle down, mate. You know, like fucking hell, you're so over the top about it.
In the most kind and compassionate way. Fuck off. Fuck off.
Can we? This has been amazing. Can we talk about your tour with Eminem, where Eminem heard your music and said, "I want him to open for me"?
Yeah, how did that happen?
Yeah, so I had the label EMI hit me up, and they were like, "Okay, Eminem's coming." Apparently, he likes to choose who supports. So these are the songs we're thinking we'll send through. So I think they naturally went to all the biggest hits. And because I know his background quite well and I have a similar background from the battle rap years and stuff like that, I was like, nah, he needs to hear that. So I put in a bunch of songs that I knew he would respect as far as rap technicality and stuff like that goes. And then, ended up getting chosen for it, which is wild.
That would have been a good day.
Oh.
So your first gig.
Insane. Just a bucket list, you know, like,
yeah,
mind blowing, and like I would have done it for free.
Of course,
and
you would have paid.
Yeah,
yeah.
I legit would have.
Yeah,
and it was actually, it was great. It was amazing.
Because on that tour, it's not just Eminem, it's Kendrick Lamar and it's J. Cole.
Yeah,
and you're hanging out with those guys.
Yeah, and we were under strict instructions not to approach Eminem, like if we saw him, like we didn't meet him or anything. because he's just so famous. He's like Michael Jackson level famous, where he has people stalking him that could do some dangerous shit and stuff like that. Like he rocked up with a police escort to every show.
Jeez.
Jumped straight out of his car onto the stage, off the stage, straight back into the car and back to the hotel. So that's really all we saw of him until I think the last night he was actually at the venue, but we didn't go up to him.
Wow. So did you meet Kendrick and?
Yeah, met Kendrick and J. Cole. They were just chill.
Yeah.
They were really nice, really humble. My DJ went out with them one night and just partied with them all. They were really cool to him and they were singing his shit.
Have you listened to Kendrick Lamar's new album?
He's amazing.
Yeah.
He's watching him perform at, like, man, he was playing a stadium show with an entire, like, packed crowd of, like, I don't even know, 50,000 people or something. And it felt like there was 100 people in there. Like, it was that intimate. And that is something I've never seen rappers be able to do in a stadium. I've never seen rappers be able to captivate an entire stadium like that. And I learned a lot from that. It was just effortless and seamless for him. He was mind-blowing.
Geez, that must be inspiring.
Yeah, very.
Yeah.
Very inspiring. That was great.
Wow.
This has just been so great.
It's very generous of you, Matt.
Yeah.
Well,
all good.
I mean, just for you to know, like you talk about your values before, you have been so authentic today. You have been so kind in sharing your story, and the confidence to do it as well, I think, has been so admirable. You said before you want to be healthy and happy. I look at you right now, and especially considering where you've come from, I see a healthy, happy person. And to use your words, we have mad love for you.
Oh, Hugh, you ruined it at the end. he believed that we belonged here until you said that.
No, I really appreciate that. Hey, that means a lot. This is a pleasure to do. I think people hearing this there'll be a lot that'll be quite shocked. But hopefully there'll be a lot of people that hear this and go, fuck, it's, this happens to everyone. Not just, people have an idea of what an addict is, but it's not like that. Like in rehab, you're not, people there aren't stereotypes. Like you get people from like crazy successful businessmen, you get people from the army and stuff like that. Like it's all over and it's all sorts of addictions too. It's not just substance abuse. It can be gambling, everything.
Yeah. I mean, I really don't mean this is going to maybe sound patronizing, but I just feel like if I had have gone through all that, I would, and would be sitting here today telling that story, I feel like I would be so proud of myself. Like, do you feel like a pride?
I definitely feel, I feel pride at where I'm at the moment for sure. Like, just that I've managed to actually make the changes that I've needed to make to start living a really fulfilling life. Because like I can make the changes that I need to make to get past the darkness, and I can live a life of like, writing music and stuff like that. But there was still aspects of my life that not quite living how I should be. Like, and working with a life coach is actually helping me do this stuff, even the smallest things in life that I, just being a very responsible, living as an adult, which is something that I haven't done very much. Like I'm 36 for fuck's sake, and I'm only learning to live as an adult now and take care of myself and put me first and figure that shit out. So I'm definitely proud of that. And yeah, I'm proud of how far I've come. It's really important to me that I just keep this going.
Yep.
On this trajectory.
Yeah. Well, I'm proud of you.
Thank you, man.
It's amazing.
Thank you.
It's amazing.
I feel like we so often feel like we're an adult because we've got like a car, or we've got like, we look a bit older and we've done things that adults do.
Or got a good job.
Or got a job or something like that. But it feels like the stuff you're talking about, the realizing that you're going to have to do it on your own, having those difficult conversations and navigating that successfully. I kind of feel like that's what makes you an adult.
Yeah.
And not a child
100%.
anymore.
Yeah.
And having to do all that stuff on your own. And I reckon you think 36 sounds old to have discovered that. I feel like that's young.
Yeah.
I reckon there'd be lots of people who never get there.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. I've got a lot of time left.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm just glad that I've finally reached that point where life's going to start getting good again.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's like,
That's
fuck, it's just been
amazing.
darkness for so long. But it's like, I'm excited just now to see what life's got to offer. Like, I'm not like before I used to be all about writing down goals and manifesting these crazy ass ambitions and shit like that. And I'm still very, very ambitious and very much think similarly, but I don't have any set goals at the moment. Like I used to have like sell this amount of records, play this show, tour this country or whatever. Now it's just be happy, be honest. And that's pretty much it.
Incredible.
And that's, and when I live like that, I feel like life is going to give me all those extra stuff anyway. It's just going to come.
Yeah. Agree.
But it feels great because it feels like, all right, what's life got for me now? What's going to happen here? Like I used to very much see it happening, but now I'm like, oh, this is going to be fun. It's like uncharted territory for me.
Can I just ask one more question, actually?
Go. Sorry. We can go for as long as, honestly, I feel like we just started.
I know. It's just something that came to me then. So when you were, when your parents first found out about your addiction and you had to call them and then they, continued to show you that unconditional love that parents can just show so well. And in your recovery over the sort of following years, even though you sort of dipped, you went down and came back up again, was there something that your parents did for you and how they were present for you? Is there something that they did for you that you were like, that really helped? Like that was, or even not even just your parents, but anyone in your life that you were like, oh, I'm so glad they were there and provided me with that type of support. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. So there's a couple I can think of. Like one was like my dad was, he was just like, my dad's like a very traditional, classic Aussie dude, just straight down the line, doesn't talk about his feelings. He's not affectionate or anything like that. He's very just what you'd expect. Hard man, but also inside very much a softie deep down. But he was like, man, he was like offering to like sleep in my room and shit to just to make sure I was okay. And he was just, and my mum too, like just, they were just, whatever I needed, they were just like, whatever you need to do to get through this, we're there for you, you know? And it's just no judgment. And also there's been a time where I've been at home and I like during the lockdowns and stuff, I became so reclusive. Everyone did, isolated. But like next level, like to the point where getting out of it was like daunting for me. Like even just leaving the house to do anything was like setting me off into panic attacks and shit like that. And when I've been in that state, Pez has been like, I remember I told him how I was feeling. I was like, I can't see anyone when I'm like this. He's like, it's okay. Just, I'll be with you. I'll just sit there while you're in that state. And he came over and sat with me while I was in that state. And I was just like fucking crying and just not good. And he was just there. He's just such a real dude in that way, you know?
How incredible to have a friend like that from such a young age.
Man, and he's done so much solid shit for me too. Like I don't think I'd have the career I had if it wasn't for Pez. Like if you like he dropped the festival song and shit popped off, and then EMI hit him up, and he took me in there and was like, you've got to listen to his music. And played them 3 of my songs, and then that EMI was straight away like, bang, jump on him as well. You know,
that's just
such
incredible.
Such a solid thing to do. I've got a lot of love for Pez.
Not many people would do that. That's amazing.
That's incredible.
Wow. I am moved.
Yeah.
Consider us moved.
Moved
60
AF.
We really appreciate your time today. Your honesty and everything has just been amazing. So,
Thanks for having me.
Matt, we
Incredible.
cannot wait to watch you
Live.
Live, yes.
Yeah.
We'll be there. We'll absolutely be there.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, come down. It'll be fun.
What do we do at your do we like dance a lot or
You just come and hang out with us.
okay.
Yeah.
Will Pez be there?
Yeah, I reckon.
Cool.
I want to give Pez a big hug.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I reckon he'll be there. Yeah.
Incredible.
I asked that question because we it's been so long. I'm 42 now. It's been so long since I've been to gigs, and my wife and I went to Bon Iver on Sunday night, and when we were walking in, I said, "Hey, what do we?" I've forgotten what we do. Like, what do we do at a Bon Iver? Do we like kind of dance, or do a, like? She's like, "What are you talking about?" And I went, I've forgotten what to do. So I'll scrub on what to do. I'll
Google
what to do.
how to act at a rap concert.
Yeah, yeah, and I'll be good by the time it comes around.
Sounds like you will.
Yeah, you'll fit right in, mate. No problems. Matt, thank you so much, mate.
Pleasure.
It's just an honour to meet you, and that story, your story is just it's beautiful and very powerful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
This is good.
Just cut the cord and it'll be alright. Just cut the cord, cut the cord. Can I be a fascination?